Welcome to Breaking the Couch, a weekly conversation demystifying what happens in and behind the therapy scene to support your healing journey. We're your hosts.
I'm Dr. Doughton, a licensed clinical professional counselor, a certified school psychologist, and a trauma specialist with Playfully Psyched.
And I'm Dr. Joharchi with Soft Heart Psychology, a licensed clinical psychologist.
We're here aiming to provide you with mental health tools to address the cycle of generational trauma across the age span, from infancy and childhood to adulthood.
For more information, visit our Instagram page at Breaking the Couch or our website, breakingthecouch.com. While we hope you love listening to and learning from our podcast, it's not a substitute for a relationship with a licensed mental health professional.
All right, so we are back together again, Dr. Joharchi. And I was really hoping that today we talk a little bit about how people can find a therapist. I know that can be a really long and tedious and hard process, and people are sometimes confused about what that looks like. And so I thought we could give some tips, questions they can ask, different things like that, and kind of share our ideas about what it's like when people are looking for us as therapists.
Yes, I love that idea. I was just thinking about that because people will ask that all the time, not just our clients or our prospective clients, but like I'll have a neighbor ask, or I was visiting a family member, and one of the people there was talking about something that they did the night before that they regretted and that they couldn't wait to tell their future therapist. And they are in a rural area where there were limited resources. So I never will say, "Hey, I'm a therapist, but here is some info about how to get a good therapist in your area." But I just had to touch my heart. And I was like, "Hey, no shame in what happened, but I did overhear. And, here's a way where you can kind of reach out to folks." So I hear about this all the time. Like, how do we find that match where we can open up and talk about this stuff?
Yeah, so cool. I was thinking, I guess the first thing is if people have insurance, right?
Yes.
If they have
Mhm.
insurance, I think one of the routes is going to be to directly contact your insurance company or insurance provider, or they might have a portal for you to go log into, and you can like search for therapists that way. What I have found for people, even, when they're searching for people that way, is a lot of people on that list isn't active or doesn't stay updated. The list doesn't stay updated, meaning that a lot of people will say they have availability when they're looking through that insurance portal, but then when they call the place, there's a super long wait list. And so that is a hindrance. Do you have ideas about anything that's hindrance for that point?
No, I think those are really good points. I like how you start at the beginning because you're right. There's like insurance, there's different things. Sometimes when insurance will say, yeah, call, like for example, they'll say, call these therapists for gender affirming care. And folks will call the people on the list and they're no longer taking someone, or they have a wait list, all the things you're bringing up.
Exactly. So that's an option, but I know that there are some barriers to that. And then I think that the most common way for people to find a therapist when they don't have insurance is kind of using directories, online directories.
Mhm.
And so there's so many of them. We couldn't even name them all in one sitting if we wanted to. But there's places like Inclusive Therapists, um, uh, Therapy for Black Girls, Therapy for Black Men. Um, some, I'm sure.
Right. I'm thinking of some of the ones where they offer like a sliding scale of $30 to $60 for individual therapy would be Open Path Collective.
Mhm.
I know that what is it called? Love Fund offers therapy vouchers for $120 to the client who is a Black client, and they can ask their therapist to make sure to submit for the voucher. I think it's
Mhm.
120, but it might be more.
I
So
think it's a sliding. I think they do up to $200 per session.
up to $200. Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm thinking Open Path Collective, Love Fund. What else? So many directories out there that
Therapy
are good.
Den,
Therapy Done.
Art
Mhm.
Zen Care,
Zen Care. Mhm.
um, I don't know. There's so many, right? And we can list some of those in the description for this, but there's all these different directories. And basically, with these directories, you're going to be able to search for the therapist by a lot of different factors. So if you want to see somebody in person, you can search by zip code, telehealth, you can search by race, specialty. Sometimes it's like single parents versus married, like all sorts of things you can search for. And so that's going to be a place to start. Once you have, and then I think another one I want to tell people is word of mouth. So if you
Right.
have friends and family that are in therapy, or I'm finding that I get a lot of my referrals through, such and such is a patient of yours and they love you. Oh, okay. Or such and such's child is a patient of
Mhm.
yours and they think you're amazing. And those are, of course, like the highest honors when you trust me enough with your mental health that you're also referring me to people that you care about. Oh, that's amazing. But yeah, ask around. That's perfectly okay because then you're going to be able to get some behind the scenes, what is that therapist like? You're going to get some more insight into that. And
That's how I
then,
found mine. Yeah,
yeah,
that's how I found
yeah.
mine. I was like, "Oh, I like how this friend is doing this transformation. I wanna do that same stuff." So that's how I found mine. Mhm.
Mm-hmm. That reminds me. So my last therapist, I was a matching system. And when I work with people, other patients that they were matched through a system, one of the things that they didn't know is that they can interview their therapist. So like just because you're matched with someone, so if you go through a system that matches you with someone, it doesn't mean you have to stay with that person.
No way, just like any other provider. No way. We don't want you
Mhm.
stuck with somebody who you can't even share with. Yeah,
No, exactly. And they were like, I didn't know that. So it's a bi-directional interview. So the potential therapist should also be asking you questions in the beginning, a few feeler questions to see if they would be a good fit for you. But you're also asking them questions to see if you would be if that would be a good match. Um, and you want to continue. And that could take, maybe it's a consult, but I tell people, usually those first 4 to 6 sessions, we're still assessing each other and seeing if this is going to work.
that's right. Mhm.
Again, because I do a little bit longer term than like 6 to 10 sessions usually. So those beginning sessions are just kind of seeing, are we a good fit? Am I
Mhm.
able to help you? Is this an area of expertise that I have? Our personalities are a good match. All that stuff plays into it. Um, and then kind of thinking about, okay, so once you've gotten this person, right? We just talked about this interview process. What do you ask? Or like, where do you find information about this person? Or what does that look like? I think would be a good topic for us.
Yeah, so I know that what we don't ask is stuff that we can find online. We can find a lot of because it's such a short time, right? It's like 15, 20, maybe sometimes 30. I've seen that recently, but I
Mhm.
know ours tend to be 15 minutes exactly.
Mhm.
And if I only have 15 free minutes with someone, I'm going to want to do all the stuff ahead of time that I can so that that 15 minutes is more so, like you said, kinda to see what the match is like, kind of to see if I'm gonna feel comfortable sharing my life story with this person and, am I gonna get what I need out of this relationship?
Mhm.
So, are you going to judge me? Are you like, whatever I need? Like, I
Mhm.
need someone who's not gonna judge me. I need someone who to be, interactive. I don't want them to just be, like, quiet, right? So, I have certain needs and I wanna save that super short 15 minutes to figure out if that feels right, and so I'm gonna look up their rates ahead of
Mhm.
time. I'm gonna make sure that their rates are updated. I know not everybody's rates are even on their website, so I'm going to find that stuff out ahead of time.
Mhm.
If again, like you said, we're not going through insurance, I'm gonna wanna find out if they do provide super bills. Oh,
Let's say
go
even if
ahead.
they are going through insurance, right?
Mhm.
Because I'd want to know, like if they're going through insurance, I want to know what my copay might be,
Right.
right? What my
Mhm.
deductible is going to be. Because some people have like they have to pay a certain amount of money out of their pocket first before their insurance kicks in for coverage. So they might have to pay like $5,000, for example, in therapy appointments before they can then get reimbursement for the remaining sessions. So I want to know that before I go in, and yeah. So regardless of if they take insurance or not. Do they take insurance? Right? Like that's a question you're going to want to ask
Mhm.
beforehand too. I'm sorry, I cut you off. Go ahead.
No, no, that was perfect. And then if they do say, this sort of thing out of network benefits, I'm gonna
Mm-hmm.
wanna know what the heck that is. Like, okay, so
Mm-hmm.
now we're looking into this thing called super bills. Is this Superman handing me a bill? No, this is, basically a type of a receipt, a type of an invoice that the
Mm-hmm.
person pays up front. So let's say I'm the client, I pay my therapist upfront $200, whatever it is for the session,
Mm-hmm.
and then my therapist gives me a super bill. Usually those are like, based on what the therapist could do, like once a month or whatever. So
Mm-hmm.
that means for that whole month, I'm paying all those sessions.
Mm-hmm.
That goes on a super bill, and then I take that to my insurance, and then it's my responsibility as the client to get that reimbursed. And I don't know how much, but it would also be my responsibility to figure that out. So
Mm-hmm.
all the rate stuff is stuff that we find so important and can be done before the 15-minute consultation.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely. And you can find a lot of that stuff out if you review the therapist's profile. Um, a lot of it's going to be there if you find them on the directory, or if they have a website, or if they're part of a practice that has a website. All of that stuff is usually on their website. And then if not, so like you said, some therapists don't list their fees. I have not seen that in a super long time. So if a therapist doesn't list their fees, that's interesting and very telling about something. But if they're not listed at all, you can always ask. You can like send a message, send an email or something like that. You can ask that ahead of time so that it's not. I don't know. I wouldn't want to show up if I, as a
Mhm.
patient myself. I wouldn't want to show up and schedule this time and then find out that I can't afford you. Like I can't even access this. So it was a waste of time. So it doesn't matter if I think you're amazing and you're great and the consultation goes really well. If we can't get the logistical things out of the way, then what was the point of the consultation?
Yeah, and that would get my hopes up. That would, like,
Mm-hmm.
be like not being able to eat candy and walking in a candy store, and I find, like, the best candy that there is. I'm like, "Wait, I can't eat this.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't had my insulin, or I'm not allowed to eat sugar," or whatever. Like, that would be so sad if I meet, like, the perfect fit for me and I find out that the rates are the only thing getting in the way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Or any of these, like, yeah, logistical things for sure. Um, no, I think that was perfect. So like go to the website, read through things, like if you can. Sometimes I've seen some people have videos on their profiles or
Mhm.
their website to like explain some of these things of words aren't as accessible or written word isn't as accessible to people. There's sometimes videos. So yeah, try to get your questions, these like really concrete, easy to answer questions. When you're scheduling the consult, you can say, hey, are there some basic things that I should know before going into the consult? You can put some of that work or responsibility back onto the therapist so they can send you specific links. They can like direct you exactly where those questions are going to be
Mhm.
answered to save everyone that heartache and time for sure.
Yeah, that actually makes me think of some of the other details we can do to save that heartache, is kind of like if I only have Saturday afternoons where I can see my therapist and they work Monday through Thursday, then that's
Mhm.
not a fit. Just already that's not a fit. That's not gonna
Exactly.
work.
Exactly. I love that because people don't think about that. That's usually like even when I'm in a consult, that's like one of the last questions that they've asked, and it's
Yeah.
like, oh, I even forget like we should have said that in the beginning. Like I don't work on Saturdays or like my pregnancy
Or
leave
like
is
you
safe.
work with folks who are in Maryland, Missouri, Florida, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
Myself, California, Florida.
Mhm.
Both of us hopefully more soon, right?
Yes.
But if somebody from New Mexico or Alaska is trying to work with us, we're going to want to, but we're not going to be able to. It's an
Exactly.
absolute no.
It's hard now.
We
Can't do it.
cannot. Yeah.
Mhm.
We're both like, no. So, yeah, we just can't do it. And those are all things that you're going to want to look up right away, too.
Mhm. And then
Individual, oh, go ahead.
no, go ahead, go
Mhm.
ahead, go ahead.
Individual versus couples versus family, children, adolescents. Like, we're going to want to figure out, do they a lot of folks will reach out to me because I do work with a lot of LGBTQ people. I
Mhm.
think that a lot of people will think, okay, well, even though it says individuals and families, because families can include relationships,
Mhm.
people will maybe want to try for their romantic partnerships. And while I would love to get more training in imago therapy, right now, I'm not. So right now it's
Mhm.
a no. So you might just be able to see it on their website that like this is a no for um like I'm not an infant mental health specialist. You
Mhm.
are, right, Dr.
Mhm.
Doughton? So they can
Mhm.
go to you for that, not me.
Mhm. Mhm. I think I just had to laugh on that because I think I told you about this, but I've had people in the past. I've said it. It's said on the website. You can go to the frequently asked questions on my practices page on the website. I say it in, or I have said it in every directory I've ever been listed in. I have directly stated it in when people book a consultation with me. You get a few facts about the practice. You get a direct link to the fees, all those different things. I've said it in this place, and I've still had people say, even sometimes their initial email will say, "Well, I know you don't work with couples." But no, but there's no but. There's no conjuncting sentence here. Like, no. Hard no, hard stop, done. Um, but yes, people will still try, but just know that that's not going to be effective and you don't want it. You don't want to go to an orthopedic surgeon to have surgery on your heart.
No,
So
I
that's a
don't.
orthopedic, like the bone doctor. You don't
Yeah.
want the bone doctor to operate on your heart. That should be a cardiologist. You don't want the cardiologist saying, "Oh yeah, I can like do some extensive surgery on your bones." You don't want it.
No
That's
way.
what is going to happen if I'm doing couples therapy. Okay, it is like having a cardiologist work on your bones. You don't want it. Um, but I will do. I think people get confused because I do some family work
Mhm.
when there's parent-child issues, and I'm working with the parents to help navigate working, with their child. And so there's some couple-like things that come up there, but the relationship that I'm helping at that point is the parent-child relationship, not the, parents together. So anyway, I've gone a little bit off topic here. Um,
We could totally have a whole episode on like, but it's hard. It's hard, right? Like I can understand like going on a website, you finally do the work of like, okay, my insurance isn't doing this. Let me go have to put the footwork in myself, especially if I'm feeling, tired, burned out, trauma, like whatever is going on. And then I finally get to the websites and then I see, oh my gosh, I really want to work with Dr. Doughton, or oh, I really want to work with blah, blah, blah. And they seem so inclusive and they seem like they do the exact kind of work I want to do. So we already have that rapport just by looking at their website,
mhm.
and they don't do the thing that we need. They don't do that part of that healing work that we really want in our partnerships or in our, with our infant. And so, yeah, that would be really hard. I can't say I wouldn't try and push it myself, but don't try and push it. It's not going to work. Like, I get it. Like you may
It's
want
true.
to, but don't. It's gonna leave everyone disappointed.
I love your compassion for that. I love your compassion for it. I just see it as, but then it's not the person you want to work with,
Exactly. Then it's not the fit, right?
right? Like again, it's
Mhm.
the cardiologist versus the orthopedic surgeon. Like it's not. It sounds great until you get to the specialty and you're like, oh, wrong part of the
Mhm.
body, right? Or like wrong part of the mind. Like, but no, it's hard. It's hard regardless. Like finding someone that feels like a good fit, it's super hard. I also think that people usually want to ask about or it might not, if it's important to you, see if you can find the answers to it. So that's like, if the race of your therapist is
Mhm.
important to you, like you're allowed to go out and seek that.
Mhm.
Like you just shared about, being a part of the not being a part of the LGBTQ community, but like servicing the community, being affirming as a therapist. If that's something that you're looking for, then yeah, you got to look for those labels, ask those questions. And a lot of that, again, you can find out ahead of time. And then I think one of the things I'd like to talk a little bit about before we wrap this up is the taboo questions,
Mhm. Mhm.
right? there are questions that people will wonder, like, can I ask? Is this appropriate to ask? Is it offensive to ask? But I think I really want to know. And I think, and it depends on the person, but some of these questions seem to be like really personal to some therapists. And that's why they seem like they're taboo. I don't think that anything is taboo. You can ask what you want to ask, right? Like,
Mhm.
ask what you want to ask, and you're assessing how the therapist responds, and if that's a good fit or not for you. So, like, one of the questions I know that will come up for people is like, are you like, if you're working with LGBTQ plus, right? They'll
Mhm.
ask like, well, are you part of the community, right?
Mhm.
And even though asking that question is outing people, right? Like, maybe they don't want to be outed. Or they'll ask, like, do you have children? Right?
Mhm.
Questions that feel really personal. Are you married? Have you ever been married? Do you know what it's like to go through a divorce? Like, all these like really, um, do you have this specific trauma? Right?
Mhm.
Like, going into these really, what can be personal. And some therapists will just answer it completely, and other people will find ways around answering it directly. And what I think can be really helpful for people is to, before they ask a question, if they feel like it's taboo, like, I don't know if I'm supposed to ask this or what that looks like, consider why. Like, why do you want to know?
Mm. Mhm.
Right? Um, and an example that I'll give, like, so do you have children? The why, it could be like, you really want to know whether your therapist will understand um, what you're dealing with in a parenting situation, right? And so if that's
Yeah.
the case, then you might want to ask the question like, well, how do I know that you will be able to understand my parenting needs? Right. And then see what the therapist responds to that. Because if what you don't really want to know if they have children, maybe that's not what you really want to know. You want to know, can they connect with you in the way that, are they going to be dismissive of the fact that your life is really hard, you love your child, but also like you feel like things are out of control, whatever the case may be. Um, so consider the why, and then once you've considered the why, reframe your question in a way that answers that why, gets to the why. Does that make sense?
Oh, that totally makes sense. I know that you and I both have talked about not being a blank slate, that we are showing up as ourselves in the room, and we are more than happy to explore kind of the why of what comes up, like, "Hey, I wanna know, do you understand such and such experience, or am I gonna be left out here essentially emotionally abandoned by you because you don't get it and you don't have empathy?"
Mm-hmm.
Right? And it's like, oh my gosh, we could totally talk about that all day long.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and the idea of, like, exploring the why ahead of time, possibly, like, saying it from the root of why we're asking is so perfect. I love that.
Mm-hmm. There is a link. There is an article on Dr. Taharchi's website that will kind of go into all this in detail, because we're not going to be able to go through all this in the podcast. But there's a lot of information in that article, and
Mhm.
there's one that's like a follow up article on my website, Playfully Psyched, um, that people can like read, peruse through
Mhm.
to answer some of these questions, and we'll put those links definitely in the description of the podcast.
Oh, I love that, and you're making me think, if people are interested in more about this, like, okay, you all have given me a baby step into to go to the directories, figure out the pre-work before the consultation, um, and I still wanna know how, like, what do I even talk about? And they check out the links that you're talking about. They can also post those questions here, and we can always create another episode if that's something people need.
Absolutely, responding directly to, giving them it's more specific questions and more specific
Mhm.
things. Yeah, that's a
We
good
could do
idea.
a little role play or something too. Yeah.
Mhm, absolutely. Awesome. Well, I hope this was super helpful. We're gonna kind of wrap it up here, but you'll have all the resources, to be able to find a therapist, hopefully, that fits your needs.
Okay, thanks, Dr. Dutton. See you again next time.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye. If you are looking for a therapist for yourself or your child, you can visit our websites, playfullypsych.com or softheartpsychology.com.
We appreciate you joining us this week and can't wait till there's another opportunity to jump on the couch with you next week.